I'm close to the Hangang, the Han River, and it's August the 1st. Now today through my Twitter feed, there was a report that the high temperature was 38.8 degrees Celsius, which apparently is a new record for Seoul. We've been having a heat wave for around a week and a half now, and during that time the temperature has not quite cracked a record that was set around 20 years ago, but today it did crack that record. So we've had the hottest day now this summer. As it happens, I'm reading a book about the Korean War, about the early days of the Korean War and the defense of the Busan perimeter, mainly by the American Marines. And one thing that the book emphasizes is how unprepared and how unconditioned the first American troops were for the degree of heat that was there. And for example, the book cites temperatures of 112 degrees Fahrenheit in the shade, with American soldiers suffering from heat prostration as a result, just fainting. Now, the temperature today hit a high of around a little over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's not quite as hot then. Now, Busan is farther south than Seoul, which may help explain the extremely high temperatures then, but it does show that extremes of high temperature are nothing new. However, as people who follow climate change news know, the problem is that the pattern, the aggregates, are slowly climbing up, and as I said in my last post about this, one of the problems is that the oceans are starting to heat, which is going to affect the Arctic, possibly melt the polar ice cap, and is also affecting fishing in a negative way around the Korean Peninsula. So there are big changes that are happening. Now, I've tended to talk about this from a couple of points of view. A lot of my friends on social media are literary types, and one thing I notice about them is that most of them are concerned about climate change, but they tend to fall into two categories. One group is slightly panicky and thinks that it's all doom and gloom, and the other group tends to focus on well-intentioned but not particularly effective issues, you know, for example, plastic straws and so forth. And as I've mentioned at this site, one particular concern that I have is the habits, the traditional way of doing things that the conventional publishing has. In particular, its emphasis on offset printed books, big runs of offset printed books. It's wasteful. Everybody knows this. A lot of the books end up getting remaindered or recycled. Now, the publishing industry has tried to recognize that and has incorporated using recycled paper and so forth into its books. But one has to ask whether there's not a certain degree of greenwashing that's happening. And I think that it's time for literary people to start getting a little bit more serious about the way they do things in a total sense. It's not just the offset print books, but it's book publicity, it's book tours, it's the way big name writers want to be treated like movie stars and flown around business class around the planet to go to writers' conferences and festivals and so forth. Really, there does have to be change from all of us. On the one hand, we should not panic. Hot days have been with us before, but we do have to recognize the 21st century reality, which is CO2 levels keep going up. It's obviously having a damaging effect on the planet. It's affecting us on a mass psychological level. It's making us depressed and anxious about the future, and we have to start thinking about better ways to do things. Not just greenwashing sorts of ways, but we have to, in my opinion, we have to move away from conventional models of publishing. They're just chopping down too many trees, and deforestation is one of the big factors in climate change.